But at first, the Coalition has unveiled its energy policy after the Liberals and Nationals agreed to a united position, signing off this afternoon on a plan to dump net zero by 2050.
We will prioritise affordable energy for households and businesses, and this is just so important.
The Coalition has settled on a cheaper, better, fairer way to reduce emissions and to address the challenges of climate change. This debate is not one predicated on science, it is one predicated on economics.
Yeah, and the Prime Minister has reacted to the news, once again calling the Coalition a clown show.
If anyone thinks that there is certainty in the Coalition going forward, then they're not paying any attention to the rabble and clown show that the Coalition have become when it comes to energy policy and climate policy.
What has become of the Liberal Party? I mean, this used to be a serious mainstream political party in this country, and now it is overrun by the fringes. They are trying to outflank Pauline Hanson, but ultimately what their approach will lead to, their confused, divided approach will lead to, is higher prices for Australians.
So, Danica, it's interesting because this is a really important opportunity for the Coalition, but I also think it's a really good opportunity for Labor to continue arguing where they've been very successful in the last two elections and have won over all those voters in the changing electorate. They are going to weaponise this and say the Coalition is completely opposed to climate change. The opportunity now for Susan Lee and David Littleproud is to argue about how you can be in favour of climate change and do everything possible to reduce your emissions, but do it in a way that doesn't send households broke, send industry to the wall, and, you know, do it in a way that also doesn't impact regional areas as much as it is at the moment. It is the short-term targets that are the biggest problem. Labor's been talking about 82% renewables by 2030. Yeah. I think like 90% or 80% of all new cars being electric. And they're targets that just need to be reduced but also expanded out over the next few decades to get us where we want to go. Instead, business is being crushed, and this is a really good opportunity now for the Coalition to say this is our point of difference. We want more gas. We've got to do more with coal to keep coal in the system for as long enough to keep the lights on. And meanwhile, households we've got to get prices down. It's a very, very simple argument. And if they do it well, it is a very strong point of difference in my view.
Well, actually, I noticed in that press conference today that both David Littleproud and Susan Lee were focused on affordability as opposed to the terms net zero and emissions. And I actually think that's a really smart tactic, James, because that's what Australians want to hear. It's all about affordability. And actually, I thought David Littleproud's line that we just played then, this is a cheaper, better, fairer way. It's a very, very simple slogan. And I actually think that will resonate because it's been years of Labor, the years of our power bills going up. So I just think it's actually very smart politics. It was really good today, I have to say, to see the Coalition coming together and united on an issue. I mean, it's taken 6 months, James, but finally they have got there. And in the end, it had to happen, right? I mean, Australia is just too small of a player on the world stage when it does come to emissions, yet we export, coal and gas to India and China, two countries not even signed up to net zero 2050 themselves. So everything that we've been doing has made no sense. I just want to make a comment about Penny Wong now. The comment that she made, she said that the Liberal Party is being overrun by fringes. What a pathetic and stupid comment to be making. Let's be very clear. Energy policy, James, is not something on the fringe. This isn't just something on the side. This is a mainstream problem. This is affecting every Australian, everyday Aussies. You out there know what it's like when you open your bill every quarter or when you receive your bill. You know exactly what's going on. So, no, this isn't just a fringe issue, Penny Wong, just immature politics. But it goes back to your point. The left are going to demonise and weaponise this now. And, the Coalition's going to come up against this day by day. And that's it. Among a lot of young people who are voting for the first or second or maybe the third time that, aren't responsible for their household power bill just yet, maybe don't have a mortgage, they hear this stuff and they read what the Coalition has proposed today and just think you are automatically, you are a climate change non-believer. And it's not that at all. This is a very tough argument to have, though, because as soon as you stick your neck out like this, you're going to face criticism from global bodies, some of our allies, people saying, well, they're not doing everything possible to reduce emissions. And the truth is we have. We actually have, in the last 10 years, reduced our emissions at a substantial rate.
The issue is Labor is saying we've got to do it much faster by 2030 and then by 2035, which is why they're going at 1 million miles an hour. And it's the large-scale projects that are railroading country areas. People that you may not have even visited these towns 5-6 hours out of cities. The cities are making all these policy decisions. In the bush, they're suddenly being told there's 90 turbines there, there's going to be another 40 there, or behind you there's already 100, and you're just going to have to deal with it. By the way, you don't even get cheap power out of that. So it's been grossly unfair between the bush and the city, and it's time that the Nationals actually stand up for that, and it's a good thing that they are doing that. I might also add that the other problem the Liberal Party has is that at state level, and we've got a story on this in the Daily Telegraph tomorrow, the New South Wales Liberal Party are, I'd say, 90% likely to back net zero within a meeting that they have on Tuesday. So then the obvious thing for Labor and for reporters and for everyone wondering is, well, hang on, the coalition federally is saying let's get rid of net zero, but at state level, they're still in favour of it. And I think that contradiction is going to be issues, and it's going to cause problems for Susan Lee and, energy ministers everywhere when you've got state and federal not on the same page.
At odds, yeah. Look, I think it's going to get messy, definitely. But again, I think it's about the sell now, how they sell it. And the other issue, you raised about young people. There was a Resolve poll only a couple of weeks ago that said that young people, 18 to 35-year-olds, want to keep net zero, but only as an aspiration, not as a binding law. So I think that attitudes are changing. And maybe if the coalition could look to target younger voters in a different way to help bring them on board. I mean, look what Labor did with the HEC step policy at the election, and that was highly successful.
Yep.
There might be other ways to bring young voters on board. So I actually don't think all is lost when it comes to the younger side of politics.
But when you've been convinced that Australia, when you've been educated and taught through school, through university, that Australia is the biggest part of this problem, and in reality we're 1.2%, and then our exports are more, well then people are going to be wondering what we actually stand for. But there's a very clear point of difference here, and you can argue it to say we are still doing renewables, you can have your household solar, they're going to be part of the mix, but not, as David Littleproud said today, to the levels Labor are proposing, which is 82% by the end of the decade.
Well,
we can't get there.
It's madness.
And to try and get there is sending us broke.